Hi, I'm Debbie Georgatos. Welcome to my show, America, Can We Talk? Today, we're going to talk about Twitter censors Trump. This is not going to go well. Congressional Candidate Jim Simpson joins me, and Central Park Karen loves Obama. And of course, I'll tell you why these stories matter to you. Stay tuned.
Debbie Georgatos, host of America Can We Talk, is an author, attorney, and political analyst whose mission is to inspire the American political conversation about preserving liberty in the best country on earth.
And welcome again to America Can We Talk and to today's First Five. I'm Debbie Georgatos. Well, Twitter may just have picked a fight with the wrong person. You probably saw the story recently. You had Donald Trump, who is world famous for his tweets and many, many followers at Real Donald Trump. And he tweets just kind of relentlessly, endlessly. Well, he put a tweet out that was related to the effort the Democrats are engaged in. We'll be talking a lot more about today and tomorrow. The Democrats' effort to push for all mail-in ballots in the 2020 elections, which is another way of saying it's the Democrat vote fraud enablement. This is what they are doing. It's nothing less. So Donald Trump tweeted out basically saying, hey, I think this is a bad idea. I'll let you see his exact tweet. I have Matt the Wonderful. I sent him a series of tweets. This is the first one President Trump put out. There is no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mailboxes will be robbed, ballots will be forged, and even illegally printed out and fraudulently signed. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people. And before we go to the next tweet, I want to show you. See the blue along the bottom? Get the facts about mail-in ballots. This is Twitter correcting, so to speak, correcting the President of the United States. And to be really clear, they're not correcting, they are spreading Democrat talking points. They are trying to say that mail-in ballots are not a fraud problem. And if you listen to the show at all, you know mail-in ballots are a playground for fraud for the American left. Second tweet, President Trump went on to say, he's speaking of California, living in the state, no matter who they are or how they got here, we'll get one. That will be followed up with professionals telling all of these people, many of whom have never even thought of voting before, and for whom to vote. This will be a rigged election, no way. Again, the blue along the bottom, get the facts about mail-in ballots. I have to tell you, folks, Donald Trump is not taking this sitting down because Twitter already, as you likely know, suspends the accounts. We'll be talking about other people in a moment. Suspends the accounts of conservatives if they say things that allegedly don't comply with Twitter's views or don't comply with their community standards. Facebook does the same thing. So Donald Trump's already been out saying, big action to follow. Say after Twitter puts fact check label on his tweets. And I want to really make something clear. If Trump had said, I think that, some absurd thing like Martians stole the 2012 election or something crazy, of course Twitter would say something. But Twitter and all social media simply forever and a day shut down conservatives, not just shut down people who are trying to be active in social media and put out messages, but actually try to steer what the American people believe by calling true things untrue, by calling untrue things true, by censoring people trying to speak on social media. So Trump said, number one, big action to follow, not putting up with this. And I just want to mention one little headline. The New York Times and many other sources, but New York Times is about the worst, put out some comment about, this was the New York Times headline, Twitter refutes inaccuracies in Trump's tweets about mail-in voting. In case you didn't know, and if you hadn't listened to this show, we've had experts on this show, we've had stories on this show, talking about all the ways in which Democrats cheat using mail-in ballots. It's one entire avenue, ballot harvesting, literally in California, sending out droves and droves of union employees and union officials and other left-wingers to pick up ballots in people's homes. All sorts of stories about people discovering they were told they had voted when they didn't know they'd voted. You also had the very recent arrest in West Virginia of United States Postal Service mail carrier charged with fraud after allegedly tampering with vote-by-mail requests. what is really the point of this first five, I mean, the minor point is that mail-in ballots are part of the Democrats' overall agenda in 2020 to steal this election. They can hardly believe all their other efforts to destroy President Trump have so far appeared to fail. All their other efforts, including the initial Trump-Russia collusion fraud, which turned out to be a big fat zero. Then their attempt to impeach the president based on stuff that Joe Biden actually did, but they falsely accused Trump of doing. That fell apart. Every effort they've made against this man to destroy him has failed. We're in the middle right now of the next wave, which is the Democrat effort to use America's response to coronavirus to destroy the economy, to attack Trump. But that, I even have news about that coming up. But what I want to say in this first five is this. Twitter, Facebook, all sorts of other social media work very, very hard to mold and shape the opinion of the American people. Twitter was not factually checking Donald Trump. Twitter was trying to prevent Trump from convincing or informing more Americans how regularly mail-in ballots are subject to fraud. We had a show in this episode in this show maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Hans von Spakovsky, fabulous expert from Heritage Foundation, laying out data point, data point, data point, data point. Mail-in ballots lost and never returned, massive numbers lost, all sorts of ways and methods that the left and frankly the right could do it too, conservatives could do it too. But given the determination of the American left to push for mail-in ballots in this election cycle, the purpose is to cheat to win the election. And that's what Donald Trump is really getting at. He's not going to let the Democrats do this. But back to Twitter and Facebook. One other quick story I mentioned, I think I alluded to it a couple days ago, but Candace Owens is really in a battle with Twitter and with Facebook. I want to remind you what her tweet was. Her tweet on Facebook, she tweeted out something related to the Michigan Governor Whitmer. And I can't remember if I sent Matt the Wonderful this tweet or not. I meant to send Candace Owens' tweet about Governor Whitmer. So I want to put that up. So this is Candace Owens, who used to be allowed to speak on Twitter. She had written on Twitter, apparently at Governor Whitmer believes she is a duly elected dictator of a socialist country. The people of Michigan need to stand up to her. Open your businesses, go to work. The police think she's crazy too. They are not going to arrest 10 million people for going to work. For that tweet, Twitter removed Candace Owens from Facebook. And they talk about removing her because she violated community standards. In fact, there was a very smarmy, slimy, condescending statement Twitter put out that they had to, that her, Candace Owens' tweet, violated the platform's COVID-19 misinformation policy, specifically around heightened risk health claims. And that she goes on to say, this is a spokesman for Twitter, Owens' tweet encouraging people to ignore the shutdown order of Governor Whitmer in Michigan and saying, just go back to work, go about your business, they can't arrest the whole state. This is what Twitter had to say in response to Candace Owens. Owens' tweet involved denial of government body recommendations to increase an individual's likelihood of exposure to COVID-19 with the intent to influence users into acting contrary to recommended guidance. So Owens on a timeout with Twitter, and then she's in trouble with Facebook, Candace Owens, because on Facebook she made the statement that the CDC is encouraging doctors and others to falsely identify COVID-19 as a cause of death on death certificates where the people, or someone who passed on, may have had COVID-19, but the cause of death was not COVID-19. They may have been exposed to it, but they had some other long-standing condition that actually led to their death. And there have been doctors who've been saying this. There have been public health officials acknowledging CDC is intentionally padding the COVID-19 death numbers. Doctors say it, numerous across the country, public health officials. Candace Owens puts it up on Facebook. She's locked out of Facebook. And there, in that particular case, they shut her down with a message to her that said her statement did not comply with community standards, making false statements about the COVID-19 death rate. So she, because she is tenacious, I'll get out, she sends an email into Facebook. She lays out, this doctor said it. This doctor said it. This public health official in, I forget where it was, Ohio or Illinois or somewhere said it. And the answer from Facebook was, well, you know, we don't really make these decisions. We have a group, a extra group, not someone right here at Facebook, but another organization that fact checks, and they said that you are wrong. The CDC is not padding the numbers. So she said, well, give me their information. So Candace Owens sends them an email and lays out what I just told you. The facts are, people involved are saying the CDC is exaggerating the COVID-19 death rate. And she cited doctors and elected and public health officials. Gets a response from them saying, our doctor said you're wrong. That's it. We have a doctor, she said you're wrong, and that's it. So this is social media strangling vital information to get out to the American people in an election year when you have one of the key arguments of the election and issues facing America is, did we really deal with the coronavirus well? Did we exaggerate? Was the shutdown necessary? Was the shutdown, did it last too long? We have all sorts of people who are trying to get facts out to point out that not the virus as a hoax, but America's response to it, our extended response, our extended shutdown, our extended shelter-in-place orders, all the almost police state tactics being used by leftist governments are part of an effort to suppress the economy. And this is something that the social media giants do not want you to understand. Two other little tiny examples. I sent Matt the Wonderful. This is another example on Facebook of the way and the degree to which they are shutting down people who dare to disagree with their ministry of truth about COVID-19 facts. So this is a friend of mine, Barry. Can't see his last name, so it's okay. Barry, you liked a post with false information about COVID-19. That post was removed because it had harmful false information. The World Health Organization has a webpage with common rumors you can share with friends so everyone can stay safe. So they're trying to encourage this guy who shared information, probably true, about COVID-19. Why don't you share, the Ministry of Truth approved propaganda about COVID-19? Last one, I don't have the picture of it, but just today someone was showing me they had actually tried to share a really funny post by Babylon Bee, the spoof website, and Facebook even interfered with that. Are you sure you want to? This is not a reliable source of news. It's a spoof website. I really want to get at, and closing out this more than 5 minute long, first five, to say this. We are in a battle in this country, not just in this election year. It will go on long after the election and regardless of who wins the election. But we are in a battle in this country between people who still believe in America as founded, believe in the freedom of speech, believe in the right of the people to understand things, to speak, to engage in conversation, to engage in the exchange of ideas, to weigh in on public policy, to try to influence our elected officials. There's that side, the Patriot America side, and the other side of the battle is the radical left. And I need to even stop calling them radical. It's simply today's American Marxist left. They believe they can tell you what to think. They can shut you down if you try to share facts that they have not approved, and they think there's nothing you can do about it. But harking back to how I started the first five today, President Trump is saying we just may not put up with Twitter now falsely fact-checking the President of the United States, who's trying to say mail-in ballots are a source for rampant fraud, which everyone who ever studies the issue knows to be the case. But somehow they on Twitter think they can stop the President of the United States from sharing that information with the American people. I think Donald Trump has a plan in mind. He talked about maybe shutting him down for a month. I don't know if he can do that or if he will do that. But the idea is time to fight back against these censors who are trying to tell people in this country you don't really have a First Amendment right to speak unless everything you say agrees with left-wing orthodoxy. We're in a battle, and it's a fabulous time to be in the battle, to be a conservative, to be someone speaking up for truth, speaking up for the ideas that formed America, because those are the very ideas under assault in this 2020 election. And that, my friends, is my much longer than 5 minutes first five. As I mentioned at the start, we have a guest joining us today. He is on the phone, I believe, Jim Simpson. He has joined us on the show before. He is running for Congress, a truly brave thing to do. He is running for Congress in the great state of Maryland, Congressional District 2. He's in a primary, and because, they have different states have different dates. I'll tell you that the primary in Maryland is coming right up. It's in June 2nd. So it says coming. It's less than a week away. It says coming Tuesday, June 2nd. Jim Simpson, he's been on the show before because he's just an amazing spokesman for conservative ideas of all kinds, especially related to immigration. His professional experience includes working as an economist, a businessman, author, journalist. He has a degree an undergraduate degree after studying at Keystone and University of Delaware, and a master's degree at University of Delaware also. So he's just he's a very informed, long-term businessman, true patriot, and I believe we have Jim Simpson on the phone. And there he is. Well, there's his picture. So hi, Jim.
Hey, Debbie. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So glad you could come on. Well, I want to jump in because we never have enough time. So I noticed on your website today that, and maybe this has been there a while, and by the way, for our listeners, the website is Jim Simpson for Congress, for the word FOR, JimSimpsonForCongress.com, and on Twitter at James M. Simpson. I noticed you have the endorsement of former Governor Bob Ehrlich, and former governor of Maryland, where you are, and it's a really, really great endorsement. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, those were very, very nice words of support he gave me. I really appreciated that. And the endorsements page includes a lot of other people, and some of those people I think you already know. And, I'm honored, honestly. I'm honored and humbled to get those endorsements and those words of support. They really are very meaningful to me.
Well, I would think so. Okay, well, I love it too. Okay, so Jim Simpson, you've got a primary. I know I'm not even going to talk about the other jokers, and there are a bunch of people in it, but June 2nd. And so I noticed on your website you honed in on 3 issues. And I usually ask candidates, elected officials, why you're running, what are your big issues, but you honed in on 3. So I'm just going to turn to those and talk to you about those, and especially in Maryland. The 3 in order you had: immigration, crime, and the economy.
Yep.
Can you talk about crime, especially you're in the Baltimore area? What is the reason crime in Baltimore is a big issue?
Well, Baltimore City has a murder rate that parallels with some third world nations. And it is largely because the crime in Baltimore City, despite the best efforts of the vastly understaffed Baltimore police, has gone on unabated and largely unchallenged. And many of the people who are arrested get off. And I was told by a retired judge who was in Baltimore for his entire life that they get off because many of the people in the jury pool are their, neighbors, their friends, and also have some kinds of records themselves. So there's this strong attitude of sympathy towards those who commit crime, and there is an institutional bias against people who are victims of crime. When I lived in Baltimore City, I used to walk my dog late at night, and we lived right in the heart of the city. It was a nice little neighborhood, but there were armed robberies right there. Our next door neighbor had their house basically turned over. Somebody down the street, a woman walking her baby, was held up at gunpoint. So you walk at 3 or 4 blocks in any direction, and you're taking your life in your hands. But I used to follow people around, and they kind of freaked out because here's this big dude chasing them around with a cowboy hat and a dog, and they just didn't know what to make of it. But I did not carry a gun because, well, 2 reasons. First of all, I became more afraid of the police catching me with a gun than I was afraid of being caught by, a holdup artist or a criminal of some kind. And then I discovered that really they weren't afraid of me or my gun; they were afraid of my dog. So, but the point is that it's really it's overwhelming. The problem is overwhelming, and the decades and decades of Democrat leadership in that city have essentially abdicated their role in helping to enforce laws. And they're very anti-police. You know, the state's attorney goes after the police, and she doesn't go after criminals. She has relatives who are criminals, who are drug dealers. And you recall what happened during the Freddie Gray incident when the mayor came out, Stephanie Rawlings Blake came out and said, I'm going to give them room to destroy. And so she was basically giving them license to go out and smash police cars, light their own neighborhoods on fire. You know,
right? She was legitimizing their violence and excusing it, saying that that they've got to vent, they've got to, it's a. I will tell you, I think I mentioned with you before. My husband and I moved to Texas from the Washington D.C. area. We used to take our kids up to Inner Harbor in Baltimore as a fun little shop, lunch out, get an ice cream cone. When our kids were little, I mean, maybe it's gotten better, but I know since we left, it went through a horrible period, a lot of crime, gangs hanging around, and it was not safe for families there. But I got to jump to your other two topics because I want to be sure. So you actually write about immigration as one of the key issues that you're running on, and that I probably should have asked you about that first. So what are your overriding goals on immigration were you to be elected to Congress?
Well, you know, Maryland is a sanctuary state. And a big part of both the crime issue and many, many other issues we have here is the fact that illegal aliens are given preference to citizens. I mean, black businesses are destroyed because they are taken over by illegal alien businesses who don't have to meet any of the stringent regulatory requirements of an honest business in Maryland. Illegal aliens are given in-state tuition. They are given all kinds of advantages and kowtowed to by the Democrat establishment. And we all know this is to enable and encourage more to come, and then second, once they're here, to get them amnestied so they can vote Democrat to further solidify the Democrat electoral base, because they know they're losing a lot of people just by virtue of the fact that they're so radical. And so, and Maryland now is has the second highest population of MS-13 of any state in the country except California. And you know, when I talked about this, I wrote about it in, I think, 2014, and I talked to the state police about it, and you know, that was news to them. At that point, they had not had a single case against MS-13. And they had tried all kinds of, the Black Guerrilla family, the 18th Street people, all these different gangs, but they hadn't even considered MS-13. And MS-13 has essentially a sanctuary within the sanctuary state in Montgomery County, which is overseen by a guy who runs an organization called Casa de Maryland. And he's got all kinds of shady backgrounds in the past, but it's essentially an illegal alien advocacy organization that gets millions of dollars from the state. And so this is the kind of situation we face. While we know in the meantime, illegal aliens use excessive amounts of welfare, even though they're not legally supposed to get any welfare, they take spots out of state universities so that Maryland students cannot get them. They commit crimes way out of proportion to their numbers in the population. And I could go on and on with all the problems they create. And Maryland is ground zero for that. I call it California East, because it's just
Sorry, excuse me for cutting in. I gotta say though, I know, because we lived in Maryland before here, and it's amazing. I mean, it's, it used to be, it's just a very liberal place. I want to jump to one other topic very quickly. So what is your overall sense on America's response to the coronavirus epidemic. Are we needing to move toward reopening America, or should we stay down shut longer? Do you feel like there's a political bent to how America responded to the coronavirus?
Oh my God. Well, yes, yes, and yes. I have written lots of things on my campaign blog page, and starting pretty much before most people were talking about it. And here's the issue. You know, we didn't know what we were dealing with at first. And President Trump, I think, dealt with it as best as you possibly could under the circumstances with all the unknown factors. But as the situation has evolved, we've come to see that we made a lot of mistakes, and we still don't understand things entirely. But I say today, it's all irrelevant, because we are already getting to the point where we are going to surpass the number of people dead from the coronavirus, even if you take the statistics at face value, which I don't. And to add to what Twitter tried to correct, Dr. Birx herself said that they overestimated the number of corona cases. They were calling.
Sure did. Yeah.
She said that. So how they get their person? But anyway, so you know, there are people. We get 150,000 people a month are diagnosed with cancer. That is a statistic right out of CDC. So for the last 2 months we've been shut down. How many cancer patients will now be facing a situation with a metastasized cancer that could have been caught a month or two ago, and now it's going to be too late? How many people have stayed at home and gotten heart attacks and strokes? As you and I both know, the numbers of people in being admitted to hospitals for both of those things have dramatically dropped off. And that doesn't mean the number of strokes and heart attacks have dropped off. It means they're not going to the hospital. So how many are going to die from that? In certain places, suicides have already surpassed the number of suicides for the entire year. And I helped a guy, this guy put together a model that I put on my website. It's called Restart Now. And he looks at states county by county and assesses the risk and cost of staying shut down versus opening up. And he identifies counties where there are more people who have died from unemployment-related suicides already than there are COVID cases in that county. And so we are facing a disastrous situation. We are going to have to open up and face this thing head on without 6 feet of separation, without the damn masks at some point, no matter what. And we have to open up. We have to do it now and let the chips fall where they may. And I've been going out. I'm not afraid to shake hands. I'm 67. I potentially have, compromising situations, but I'm not afraid of it. And if it happens to me, well, I'm sorry, knock on wood, but then it happens. It doesn't matter. We have to open up, or the cure is going to be much worse than the disease.
Absolutely true. Jim Simpson, I'm so glad you could join me today. The website again for people, Jim Simpson for Congress. That's the FOR spelled out, JimSimpsonForCongress.com. On Twitter at James M. Simpson. Primary in Maryland, Republican primary, June 2nd, coming right up. And sir, I love that you got that great endorsement. I wish you all the best. I'm so glad you could join me. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Debbie. Great to be with you again, as always.
Great to talk to you. Okay, my friends, so this is a time, it's a strange time in America. There are many candidates out there vying to win primaries or to win a general election. It's a huge year. A lot of people think you're just always really focusing on President Trump. And is he going to win re-election? And is Biden going to stay in as the VP? But there's many, many races in every state. There are races, every single member of the U.S. House up for re-election. Many vital House seats in question. We'll return to tomorrow and talk about some predictions about how very easily Republicans could lose majority control of the Senate. Republicans could lose majority control of the Senate. Got to understand that for tomorrow. But on today, I just want to make the point that we need to be, for all races across this country, getting in the mindset that says this is an election in 2020 about keeping America on course for freedom, keeping America on the track we were on before the coronavirus came along, where we had a renewed economy, a strengthened spirit of Americanism, a growingly securing border. We had just brought jobs back. We had the lowest unemployment numbers in all sorts of categories in decades, and in some cases forever. We were on track, and America was on track. The left is watching this Trump storm for the first 3 years of President Trump's presidency and looking at all the success they've seen, we Americans have seen and recognized, wow, people in America are figuring out that freedoms and free markets work, that they like this new economy. They like this regenerated, reinvigorated culture of Americanism and loving America and reassertion of American sovereignty. That's what Trump has done, and this is why the left is so determined. So in every state, wherever you are, there's an election for Congress because every single seat in the U.S. House is up, many Senate seats up. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But I encourage you to see the election, to speak about the election. In every case, it is a question of America or not America. It is staying on the path of restoring America, which is the Trump agenda, or the not America path of just giving in to all that the left is trying to do. We'll hit more of that tomorrow. But I want to hit one other story, and this ties into the idea of what we're talking about, what the left is trying so hard to do. Many of you have heard that they're talking about this. They use the name Karen, which, as a small aside, I hate that because Karen's a great name. I have friends and family members who are named Karen, but Central Park Karen loves Obama. What I want to explain to you is, you may have heard the term Karen is being used, it's very cool in social media, to refer to the wealthy, white, bigoted, intolerant, ignorant voter, the dumb woman who is protesting out there against the shutdown and who is otherwise just an intolerable, yucky person. So, in Central Park in New York City, there was a woman who was out walking her dog. It was in an area of Central Park where you're supposed to have your dog on your leash. Apparently there are areas you don't have to have your dog on the leash, but she's where you did have to have your dog on the leash. A guy came along. He happened to be black. He was there because he likes to watch birds. They use the word a birder, but he enjoys bird watching. So he sees her. He asks her to please put her dog back on the leash in this area. And part of the reason, I was reading more about it, part of the reason in that area of the park is that dogs running around trample on foliage. I guess they have a lot of pretty flowers and foliage, and scare the birds and animals. And so this part of the park is supposed to be not dogs running wild. So this woman named Amy Cooper, who is now known forever for the rest of her life as Central Park Karen, got approached by this guy to ask, and he said, would you please put your dog back on the leash? So now I'll ask Matt the Wonderful to play. This is the clip. So what happened was he asked her, put your dog on the leash. She didn't want to, and he picked up his cell phone, turned on, so he's video recording this interaction with this woman. And you'll watch it in a moment, and then I'll tell you, it went viral, and her conduct toward him, her rudeness toward him, her reference to his race, which was irrelevant, but I want you to hear how she acted. This is Central Park Karen.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to me.
I'm taking pictures and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there is a man, African-American, who has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African American man. I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. And my... I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, people, that woman, Amy Cooper, because the man asked her to please put her dog on the leash. First of all, you're watching, she practically killed the dog, the way she's strangling the dog by the neck as she's calling. But this is a woman hysterical because a guy asked her to please put her dog on the leash. She makes reference to his race, calls the police, and fortunately he's recording it, saying there's an African American man threatening my life. The guy, whose name also happens, last name also happens to be Cooper, but the guy is saying, please call the police. Go right ahead. Please do. So this woman was being vilified, as she should have been, being vilified on social media. People putting tweets out about, how she's obviously like a Trump supporter. In fact, I'll just read you a few tweets because the story went viral. People are commenting on, you see the kind of racial tension that President Trump has created in this country. You have this crazy Karen, this conservative white woman attacking and vilifying this poor black man who happened to be walking in the park. And so one tweet, Amy Cooper, that's this woman's name, Amy Cooper, will probably receive an invitation to the White House and be awarded the Medal of Freedom from Trump. After all, she represents everything Trump loves: racism, hatred, lying, and a dog hater. And so there was a hashtag Amy Cooper going nuts. Another person said, this is serious. Happened today in Manhattan. As a public defender for over a decade, I have tried cases where the Manhattan DA uses a hysterical 911 call as categorical evidence of guilt. Usually there's no video like this. Okay, the point in telling you this story is that that woman, first I'll tell you what happened to her. She lost her job. She had a $170,000 a year job, so she's an executive at Franklin Templeton. Everyone in the country knows her name. They might think it's really Karen, but it's Amy Cooper. The guy, Christian Cooper, the guy who videoed it, was, very calm in his voice, as you heard, happy to have her call the police. And what happened, he said, please put your dog on the leash. And she was saying, no, the dog wants to run free. He hasn't been out there. I'm going to let him run free. She's ignoring the rules. He's saying, but, I'm here to bird watch and your dog is scaring the birds away. But back to the story. So she loses her job. I think that someone might have had her dog taken away. And so she put out an apology saying, I'm really, really sorry. I kind of overreacted. So sorry about that. But the point is, everyone in media, CNN as a really good example, CNN piled on this guy. CNN talked about him, about this woman as a dust-up, as another example. This is CNN describing Central Park Karen as another example of white people calling the police on African Americans for mundane things. Okay, Amy Cooper, Central Park Karen, is a Obama campaign donor, a Pete Buttigieg, former Democrat presidential candidate, donor, a donor to John Kerry, and voted for Obama twice. She's a leftist. And all of a sudden, when someone dug into who is this woman, the left has been looking for reasons and arguments and examples to make to the American people that look what Trump has done. He's created all this hatred in this country. This nut job who didn't want to put her dog on a leash in the park, she's a leftist. Her attitudes are shaped by leftism. Her attitudes are not shaped by Donald Trump. She's a leftist attacking a polite man who happened to be black in Central Park and asked her politely to please put her dog on the leash as the law requires. So all of a sudden, Central Park Karen, star of the CNN video, and CNN's, talking about her as a white conservative racist, and all these Twitter people are out there mocking her and saying, you see, this is what she's probably going to get a Medal of Honor from Trump. She's a Dem. She's an Obama supporter. She's an ugly racist Democrat. That, my friends, is Central Park Karen. And I don't usually go into stories like that in the show. I love to stay on really high-level political issues. But the culture being created in this country shapes election outcomes. The culture being shaped by CNN, by leftists in media, by Twitter shutting down anyone who tries to share a conservative point of view, Facebook shutting down people who are putting out facts, who are saying, I'd like to share some facts, I'd like to share what I know. Twitter, Facebook, social media shutting down conservatives. All of this activism by leftists in this country, by CNN, it is actually extremely detrimental to our culture. It makes, the idea that fortunately that guy was there and could video it so he could show what really happened, because she was obviously trying to get him arrested. She's in a park, he hasn't threatened her at all. But she's trying to get him arrested for daring to speak to her and ask her to put her dog on a leash. She's the racist only because he was lucky enough to think about getting his phone out, turning on the video and recording her. Is he now in the clear and she's the one suffering? But I tell you this story because these kinds of things, when you see CNN telling stories, putting stories out about another example of white people doing terrible things, and it's a terribly racist country, and always trying to tie it back somehow to President Trump, always trying to tie it back to conservatism. It is really important to understand that CNN did not bother to fact check because they don't care what the truth is. CNN pounced because they thought they had a story to fulfill their narrative, their mission of destroying Trump, of painting Trump as a racist, of painting conservatism as racism. And fortunately for this guy, his name is Christian Cooper, the gentleman who is a bird watcher, fortunately for him, he had his camera, so the truth is out there. But I'll close up the show before I get to the why it matters part of the show, which I love doing at the end of the show. I'll close this out by saying this. Many, many things shape people's views about America, about candidates, about culture, about what's happening to our country. CNN and MSNBC and ABC and NBC and Washington Post and New York Times are not in the business of telling America the truth and then giving you, the American people, the respect that says, now we put out the facts. Now you, American people, you can decide what you think, how you wish to vote, what you believe in, what you stand for, what policies you like, what candidates you like. All of left-wing media is always and forever about shaping your perception, lying in the case of, back to what President Trump tried to tweet, we talked about in the start of the show, Trump tried to tweet, hey, mail-in ballots are all about fraud, and everyone, my friends, who pays any attention to these kinds of issues understands they are just a playground for left-wing vote fraud. Trump tries to say that, and New York Times and a whole bunch of other outlets, quickly they call it fact-checking, when the fact-checking really is attacking him for telling the people the truth. MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, all of them are about shaping public perception, deluding people, urging you to see America as a terrible, evil, awful, racist country, trying to paint America as full of white people who do terrible things all the time, and that we have an entire segment of our precious population in America, the black community, that's constantly under assault. This is what the effort is of the American left. It is our job as patriots, no matter your race, ethnicity, national origin, or skin color, it is our job to call them out when they lie, to point out their lies, to speak the truth, and to most of all, don't get drawn in and duped by the lies of the left. Because what they're trying to do is not just shape your views on this and a particular story and another story. It's your broader, bigger view of what kind of country America is that the left is trying to shape. You know what kind of country this is. This is a noble, extraordinary, great country. And you have the left working and the media sources in the left to convince you it's not. And this is going to matter a great deal in the fall, in the elections of 2020, when how much did the social media giants win in lying to the American people about what America's all about, lying to the American people about the Trump agenda, lying to the American people about the Trump success record. How much did they succeed or not will depend a lot on how active we are as American citizens in calling them out, correcting them, and sharing those stories with your friends. And now, my friends, before I run out of time in today's show, I want to turn and tell you why the stories we talked about today matter to you. We started our show today with the story about Twitter censoring Trump. I said I don't think it's going to end well. It is not going to end well. Trump is not going to take it sitting down. Twitter's head of site integrity, I forgot to even get to this point, is an open, so who's put in charge by Twitter to decide whether Trump is telling the truth, is an open and proud hate Trumper, patrols content of Facebook's oversight board, stocked with leftists, patrols content. You have these left-wing Twitter and Facebook. The content evaluators are left-wingers who hate Trump, Republicans, and conservatives. Twitter initiated its own fact-check system on Trump's tweets, placing visible additions to tweets disputing the veracity of what Trump says. First case, disputing the election fraud potential of mail-in balloting. Evidence of fraud using mail-in balloting is overwhelming, and it's not anecdotal. There is no evidence of voter ID leading to voter disenfranchisement, but that's okay. People can put that out there all the time. The leftists can keep arguing voter ID leads to voter disenfranchisement, and you're not going to get anyone on Facebook and Twitter to disagree. They're doing all of this willfully, aggressively, unapologetically. They are devolving into a brazen ministry of truth propagandists. American patriots must realize this is a war. It's a war for how Americans see America. Refuse to be manipulated, find news elsewhere. And on Central Park, Karen, who loves Obama, why it matters to you. Central Park woman with her dog captured in video calls full Karen over demands by a stranger to comply with leash rules. It wasn't even demand, he just asked. But anyway, a stranger to comply with leash rules, complains to the police about the busybody who happens to be a black man. The initial social media onslaught against the woman, racist, Trump supporter. And you know what? He wasn't even a busybody. Whatever. He wanted her to follow the leash law. But the initial social media onslaught against the woman was to call her racist and Trump supporter. Reality? Liberal Democrats are often the most racist, petulant, officious, call the cops, intermeddlers in America. Reality part 2, the Central Park woman turned out to be an Obama voter, a donor to Obama, and Pete Buttigieg, a proud liberal Democrat. Leftist narratives and the stereotypes they assign to American patriots are baseless, false, and damaging to America. Don't buy them ever. And that, my friends, is America Can We Talk for today. Thank you so much for tuning in every Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. Central Time, to America Can We Talk, where I always talk truth about America because America matters. And I'll talk to you next time.
America Can We Talk? Truth about America.